We are all going to die. And the creators who can embody this truth with their heart open are those whose success, fulfillment, and dreams are guaranteed. So in this video, I want to help you die to the old version of you so that you can make space for a new you to emerge, whose clarity, confidence, and connection is so strong that your purpose and creativity becomes so amplified in the world. So I want to give you sort of just a 3-step framework of places where you can really expand while letting the old part of you shed. So I want to dive into how to neutralize your history. I want to talk about how to dance your edge, and then I want to finish up with expressing what it means to take aligned action and live boldly. So why me? I, in my short time on earth, have already died so many deaths to the idea of who I thought I was and the idea of the life that I thought I wanted. Because it's a constant evolution. You know, every time I've created a fixed narrative of what I want in life or who I want to be, inevitably when you arrive at that place or you get there, you realize that there's still more expansion happening. It doesn't mean that you need to accumulate more, but if you've ever found yourself in a position where you're like, wow, like I've kind of gotten a lot of the things that I wanted and yet I still crave more. That's been my story. But even if that has not been your story and you just feel stuck and want to expand into a more inspiring life, this is for you. So let's dive in and talk about what it means to neutralize your history and why it is so important if you actually want to sort of live a life that inspires the fuck out of you. So neutralizing your history means that we have to examine where we are still charged about our past. And this gets really deeply encoded inside of our system, right? You know, like this is where things like your wounding, your shadows, and your trauma are sometimes so out of the frame of view, or so close to your frame of view rather. They're like the glasses you're looking through. And so we end up living most of our life trying to avoid repeating the past, but in the future. The paradox of how that keeps us from actually living the life that we want is, one, we're focused on avoidance. So what we try to avoid, we're actually bound to create. So and I'm sure you've been able to see this in other people's lives, but it happens in your own life too. Sometimes it's easier to see it out there because like, oh my gosh, this person's creating exactly what they avoid. But that's sort of a truth that I find myself experiencing all the time. Whenever I am in avoidance of something, I'm avoiding repeating the past, I'm avoiding getting hurt, I'm avoiding failing, I am basically ensuring that I will experience the very thing that I fear so that I can learn to open my heart through it and embrace the fear that is there so that I can become more free. It's a gift, but you don't always see it as a gift. So until you learn that you have a charge to your history, you will be limited by the past events in your life, period. And it's very hard to create a radical, beautiful, great life when we're limited by the events of our history. And until we learn to neutralize them, to neutralize our history, we cannot really step fully in the here and now and give our creative gifts. So what neutralizing your history can look like is observing your patterning, or getting really keen on where in your life you are afraid. And it's not wrong or bad, we all have fears, it's what makes us human, right? But analyzing, like, is this fear based on the fact that I experienced this in the past and I do not want to experience it again? And chances are, it's yes. And that's the doorway to sort of the deep inner work that it takes to really break free from those constraints of our mind and of our history, right? So of course, the standard ways that we can begin to work with that is creating a practice, 30 minutes a day to where you really just attune to what is moving through you. Because every day the texture is going to be different. Different emotions might come up, something might trigger you, you might have an experience that really brings out fear, or maybe something that brings up some immense amount of joy that's so overwhelming, like I don't know what to do with it. Creating a practice to where you can just attune to yourself through movement, breath work is a great way to allow space to the things that are so unconscious inside of you to come to the surface. Because those are the sort of governors on your creative expression. Until you make those unconscious, the classic Jung quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, you will be limited by it, right? You will constantly be hitting your head against the ceiling that you can't see based on the unconscious patterning that is keeping you stuck. That's wanting to be liberated, right? Life's only purpose is to help you become more free, but it uses these kind of shadowy, murky, fearful tactics to kind of get us to open through them to discover more freedom. And then of course another great resource is to have a brotherhood or sisterhood in a men's circle, women's circle, or to see a somatic therapist, or to work with a mentor or a coach. Anything that can really help you see your own ass is what I like to say. So neutralizing your history is a huge part of letting go of the old part of you so that you can make space for the new. And as you're neutralizing your history, you will find the parts of you that you resist, the parts of your sort of journey in becoming that you are resisting. So the second principle to really embodying the life you desire and being made anew is to meet your edge. But not just meet it, to arrive there and to dance it. Our edge is where all of our expansion and growth happens, Very little happens in those bubbles of safety and comfort. Those are amazing places to experience for a season, but those aren't really the places where we expand. Some people, maybe, but most people I encounter is we really start to expand when we realize that I create my own safety. I can be comfortable in myself wherever I am, regardless of circumstance. We'll put that in air quotes because I know there's a lot of nuance. But when we start to open and embrace challenge, when we discover where our current edge is, and it doesn't matter what that edge is, as it relates to creative business, that edge could be you opening a physical space. That's something I'm dancing with. Like, do I want to offer a physical space to the community? Oh my gosh, do I want to get in debt and take out a loan and do all this work to a space to make it an offering? And that's an edge. And it doesn't mean that that's the thing that I have to do, but it's walking up to that, dancing with it, feeling it, having a conversation, sort of pursuing the opportunity, seeing how it feels. Because until we get up to our edge and we start to sort of dance beyond it, taking a few steps, we don't get the vantage point that we can only experience when we are in the moment of dancing that edge. Until you step over the fence, you truly don't know what you could see or what might be available to you there. There might be a gopher on the ground. You might see a snake. There might be like, whoa, I didn't even know there was a creek over here. To use the to expand the metaphor. Often, what I experience as I learn where my edges are, whether that be like in business or whether that be like an edge in my sort of narrative of my self-worth or stepping up and investing in myself, whatever it is, right? When I meet that edge and dance it, I'm usually sort of led or enticed by form A, let's call it. So to use the example of the physical space, I'm enticed by form A of this really cool little space in town. And so I go through the motions of exploring that. What it would be like to get money? Is there anyone that can back it? Oh, my buddy actually owns the building and he's a great dude. And so when we are connecting, now we're pivoting. As that idea didn't end up unfolding, now we're pivoting and I have this relationship, and now there's a whole new opportunity that can unfold with the owner of the building that I wouldn't have known otherwise had I not at least taken the curious step to pursue and to get in that uncomfortable space of gosh, are these pants too big for me? Can I actually do this? So form A leads us to experiencing form B. And that might happen 50 times, right, before something really materializes. But that's how you get skin in the game. You dance your edge, you sit with the uncomfort, you acknowledge the fears that are coming up, you hopefully get support, and you let it unfold in ways that are beyond your control. You get to participate, but you can't control. So that's one area where I really feel like so much growth can happen for creatives, is finding that edge and living there, spending some time dancing it, walking it, seeing how far it goes, how deep does it go inside of you, what thread of fear, what thread of a self-narrative does that pull on, And that can be a really, really transformative experience as you allow yourself to sort of die to the limitations of those unconscious fears, that edge that scared you, and now you rewrite and redesign your story as someone who opens their heart to challenge, who opens their heart to growth and expansion. And so the last one, which I have to look down because I forgot about it, is aligned action. So once we've learned to neutralize our history, and this is not a one and done thing, right? This is ongoing, we're constantly unraveling more. But once you start to realize, I got some charge in my history, there's places that I'm trying to avoid repeating the past and starting to do the inner work on that, which also has outer work too, which is the meeting your edge. Those are interconnected. You meet your edge when you start to neutralize your history and realize it's safe to challenge myself, it's safe to show up a little differently, it's safe to play a little bit bigger. And then the vessel that carries us through that process and through the space and time is learning to take aligned action. So we become a lot more clearly connected to ourselves when we start to clear the charge and we're aware of where our edge is. There's a lot of clarity that comes in knowing your patterns and knowing where that current line is that you want to sort of expand. So from that place, we have much more access and resourcefulness to our center. And by center, I mean like our core values, our deep creative essence, our intuition and what feels most right, And aligned action is a product of making great decisions, which is 80% an emotional game, right? It's not a mental game. 20% of it is. But when we get access to our intuition and our emotions to make great decisions, we're able to more confidently step into taking aligned action. And here's the problem that I see all the time, is we have, as creatives, an idea or a nudge, an urge, and in the moment it feels true and right. And of course there's nuance, I just want that to be said, but in the moment it feels true and right. And then we rip it to shreds in our mind and say and come up with all the reasons why we can't do it, why it won't work, and why X, Y, and Z, But I want to challenge that and say, who says it has to work? Who says it has to work out? Could it not be that that nudge was to get you moving so that you're in action, so that you can then see more opportunities available, cross paths with different people, and then pivot along the way? Taking aligned action requires that level of trust, that trust in ourself, and then trust that when I take a step boldly, the world around me, the divine, steps boldly towards me. But there's no embrace happening if you don't first take that step. So aligned action means learning how to make great decisions, which is a whole module in my Embodied Creator Toolkit. I invite you to check out the training below, the link's in the description. Aligned action is really about learning to make great decisions, which involves us having the practice of realizing, how can I step boldly 80% faster with 20% less certainty? Because if you're like me, you wait till you get 99, 100% certainty before you act sometimes. But going from 80% certainty to 100% certainty can take weeks, months, and there's no such thing as 100% certainty, right? Versus intuitively in a couple hours, depending on what the scale of the thing is, a moment, a couple hours, a day, a week, a month, I might be able to get to that place of 80% certainty as opposed to like striving for 100, from which place I can say, this feels good, I can't have it all figured out, but I'm gonna step boldly anyways. That is what really makes you magnetic and starts getting the flow of energy in your life moving, which helps you sort of shed the old parts of you that are trying to keep you small, keep you in the past, and so that you can redesign and rewrite the way that you're showing up for yourself, the way that you're relating to yourself, and the way that you are giving your creative gifts to the world. So if you can embody those three principles, you are set up to be a creative who is expressing yourself out in the world, regardless of needing to be met in a certain way. You are just devoted to listening to how to deeply connect to yourself, express from that place, observe the patterns that are keeping you stuck, and to constantly open through them and break through them. I don't like using that word, but for the analogy. And to break through those constraints that are constantly going to come up in our life. So I hope this is helpful. If you want the deeper dive, the Embody Creator Toolkit is the place to be. But if you just want more content like this, please be sure to subscribe, and I really appreciate you. It goes so far. But yeah, looking forward to seeing the next one. And in the meantime, stay so well. Ciao.